Entering the Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings 2022 WGC Dell Match Play. Picks, research, preview, the first look. It's not going to be a super long one today because it's the match play. Until we know the brackets for the match play and the pods themselves, it's going to be difficult to parse too much. But what we can try to do today is try to identify the types of players that have succeeded at Austin CC since this tournament moved there 5 years ago. We've seen it played 4 times, but it was obviously canceled 2 years ago because of the beginning of the pandemic. But now we're back, and we'll take a look year by year to see what we can glean. It's a Pete Dye course, so we can jump into the Pete Dye stuff, but it is important to know who is in this field and who is not in this field. So the top 64 in the world rankings automatically get the bid in. Obviously, they're not all playing, so some of the stragglers have found themselves into the field as well. So the guys that are qualified, who as of right now are not playing in the WGC match play, are Cam Smith, taking a continued break after winning the Players' Championship. Well-deserved, Cam, although I would like him at this course. Now, you don't even have to think about him. Rory McIlroy is taking a pass on this week as well. Hideki is still injured, so he's not playing. Ditto for Harris English, who we have not seen in quite some time. And boy, spoiler, Phil's not playing. I'm telling you, the Masters is at least the floor of when we're seeing Phil next in competitive play. Even then, I don't know when we're going to end up seeing him. I really do think it's going to be. Maybe he'll sneak into Valero and try to have it come back the week before, but at least at Augusta, he can get the necessary protections that Augusta National provides for everyone. So Phil at the Masters, not this week in the match play. That means we get 5 extra players in the field from down in the world rankings. Seb Straka is the last man in. Ian Poulter's in the field. Who else do we got here? Bobby Mack, Robert McIntyre. First time we've seen him since the Genesis, since he somehow isn't able to qualify for anything despite being like the number 68 player in the world, although he is qualified for the Masters, but he won his pod last year, so maybe there is something. The one thing I have noticed before we get into anything is that left-handed players have done really well at this course year over year. Obviously, Bubba has won here, and there's not a slew of great left-handed players at the moment, but I was on Bobby Mack last year to win his pod just due to the fact that he was a lefty. And that was the same pod where Kevin Na made Dustin Johnson put it out, then Dustin missed, and then went completely on tilt. Robert McIntyre hit that amazing shot. I think it was on 18 where he drove the green. Maybe it was 17. Either way, he ended up playing really well. Something with left-handed players. Even Brian Harman has had some success at the match play when he's qualified in the past. So that's what we're looking at for the field this week. The betting odds will be released before the pods are released. Then they'll completely readjust. So if we can find some sleepers or some potential players from deeper down who might get a better draw, a worse draw, you're kind of playing with fire when it comes to the odds, as the favorites will obviously be the favorites. But it's a really weird system. And when we go back and look at the previous champions, we're going to find out that it's not exactly who you think it's going to be that wins here. So we're on Fantasy National right now, and we'll get back to Fantasy National in a second. What I want to do is go back and look over time at some of the different type of years that we've seen. Obviously, we saw Billy Horschel end up winning a year ago. There's the Robert McIntyre winning his group over Adam Long, Dustin Johnson, and Kevin Na a year ago. But as we kind of cruise down and take a look at the bracket, all this is on Wikipedia. You can find it pretty easily. You see that you have Billy Horschel over Scotty Scheffler, 2-1 in the final. And then Matt Kuchar beat Victor Perez. Like, those are not bombers by any stretch of the imagination. All those guys, I mean, Horschel, Scheffler, and Kuchar, all very good at getting it up and down from near the green. So the scrambling was at a premium last year. It was very windy the final few days as well. So it was a bit more of a grind. You can see Brian Harman advance. John Rahm was in there. Sergio, Tommy Fleetwood, even throughout his struggles, ended up advancing, made a hole-in-one to eliminate someone. Forget entirely who it was at that point. Just look at who had advanced. Like, it's not who you think. So I think the only one seed who advanced last year was John Rahm. So we got John Rahm and EVR going down into the quarterfinals. So trying to break out of your group is a lot tougher. And you'll see some common names pop up over time. Cooch has done well here. Obviously, he's not in the field this time around because his world ranking nowhere near that point anymore. In 2019, We can go back and take a look at the bracket to see who ended up advancing. Kevin Na ended up finding his way out. The Beer Garden ended up beating Tiger. Kuchar made it all the way to the finals before he lost to Kevin Kisner in the finals. So it's like the Kisner, Kuchar, Horschel. Like, that's the type of player that has had a lot of success at this tournament. Noren is back in this year as well. Someone who lost to Bubba in the quarterfinals the year that Bubba ended up winning. Sergio's done very well at match play as well. So your high-end ball strikers who have done well at Pete Dye courses over time. Colonial seems like it's another crossover course. It's a very short course. So yes, there is an advantage to some of the longer hitters who can get to the par 5s and 2 challenge for eagles. But you just look at the list of these guys. They're good ball strikers by and large, but they're accurate players. They're pretty good putters. I mean, Molinari's not really that great of a putter, but at the time, he was still in the midst of being like top tier players, the number 7 seed in this tournament. And even to go back and look at it 3 years ago, Molinari, Rose, and Rory all advanced as 1 seeds. That was it. You had Leash as a high 2 seed. Maybe he was a bottom end 1 seed based on withdrawals. No, I guess he was 17. He was the highest end number 2, and same as Louis at that point. Paul Casey was a 1 seed that year as well. So more 1 seeds advanced in 2019. We take a look at 2018 and try to find out the winners. This was the Bubba year. This was a very fun year. You had Noren over Justin Thomas in the 3rd place match. Bubba over Kisner in the final. Kisner's just been great at this tournament over the years. But again, like, Noren's not big off the tee. He's more of a grinding type player. So Kisner over Poulter, Noren over Cam Smith, Kyle Stanley. If you want to talk about all ball striking, no putting, and not long off the tee, that is Kyle Stanley. And then you had Bubba. Bubba, who's played Pete Dye really well in the past. Lefties again. It was Bubba versus Harman. So you had a lefty-on-lefty matchup to start off. And then the course history battle up here too. Kisner versus Kuchar. Louis advanced a few times. Poulter's advanced a few times out of the first round. Hatton found himself out of the first round as well. Siwoo's a good Pete Dye player. He continued to go. You see Sergio found his way out again. Sergio might be the play this week. I know that's going to be probably an incredibly popular pick when we look at it, but Sergio, for whatever reason, continues to play. I mean, he does really well in Texas over time anyway, but Pete Dye courses he's played well. Something about these greens isn't the end of the world. And you have to think about match play is you can get away with bad putting if the ball striking is really, really good, and you're going to get gimmies from time to time that theoretically should help out the worst putters in the field. I think this was the year that Noren against Kisner in the 3rd place match ended up, it went to 19 holes, but I think that he had like an up and down or a putt from one side of the green on like 15 or 16, something like that, and ended up basically putting it off the green from where he was. Like, it wasn't even close. And that was the end of the match for him. Although I would expect Noren, with the way that he's playing at the moment, to be a pretty popular selection, to tell you the truth. Then there was year 1 in Austin that does not resemble anything. My guy Tanihara and Bill Haas made a run, but I believe it was 1 versus 2 in the final, or at least I don't know where Rahm was ranked in the world at that time. Yeah, he was 21, but it was Dustin versus Rahm in the final. And then it led us to believe that the stats that you really wanted to target for the week were like, oh yeah, strokes gained off the tee and distance is where you want to go. But even if you look around at like the rest of the players, Noren advanced to face Dustin that year. You had Ross Fisher and Tanihara, Soren Kelson, who's most definitely in that like Kevin Kisner type mold. Ditto for Bill Haas. You see Phil advance that year, another left-handed player, ended up doing well. We've seen Leishman and Kevin Na both advance multiple years. Charles Howell had multi-year advancements out of here. Bubba he lost to Ross Fisher, but he had made it out of the first round as well. So all different things to potentially look at. How did Scheffler do his first year? Let's try to find old Scotty Scheff. Who were some of the guys who ended up winning? Oh, Stenson just ran train through his group that year. Day as the 1 seed didn't win a match. That's actually somewhat surprising, although that was the beginning of the downturn for him that year. So Hatton ended up advancing, Kuchar and JB. Maybe Scheffler didn't play? Is that possible that he just skipped this event? That seems strange for him playing in Texas at the time. I guess he just wasn't qualified. So yeah, his first year was a good year for old Scotty Scheffler when it came down to trying to make his big run. It's funny that he came so close to this last year, and that wasn't really the end of it. And if you look at Bay Hill from a few weeks ago, obviously Scheffler won, Horschel tied for 2nd place. Maybe that means that Vic will have a good run at it this time around. Hatton's another one that we've seen with success there over the years. Sergio didn't play all that poorly. Fleetwood's had a couple good runs at API as well. So maybe that's an angle that you want to play. I really have no rhyme or reason of why certain guys tend to play well in this type of format. Kisner's kind of a killer, I suppose, although not last year, but more years than not, Kevin Kisner has played really well at this field over the years. So I think that's worth looking at. We take a look at the course we talked about. I think Austin CC is in here. Where are we at? Austin Country Club. I'm doing this well before the field was announced, so everything is not loaded into Fantasy National as of yet. Reminder to smash the like button for the episode, by the way. Give me your early lean on a deep sleeper down in the comment section. Sub to Mayo Media Network. The newsletter will be probably out on Tuesday evening because this event starts on Wednesday. So for the purposes of the Pat Mayo experience, Jeff and I are going to wait until the pods are actually released. I think it's Monday afternoon. It might be Monday evening now that I think about it. But we'll have the research show out. I have plenty of football shows out breaking down free agency, an Oscar picks and bet show with my guy Scott Yeager. That's already going to come out before the betting show with Jeff. So we're going to have that. Probably no DraftKings show this week because who Jeff and I pick in our bracket and who we think are going to advance out of the pods, I mean, that's who we're going to take on DraftKings. And we're going to get down into the nitty gritty of, maybe I'll touch on that at the end, but like you want to try to take different guys from different quadrants to try to maximize the potential. Now, that works in perfect theory when we think about it because, yeah, you want to optimize your chance to have 6 of 6 make it to the next round and then hopefully have 4 of 4, 2 of 2. Now, that never actually happens, mind you, but at the same time, you do want to try to think that you're going to get some stuff right at the same time. So the eagle rate at this course, we see that there are 2 of the holes playing over 3%, both par 5s. Then you have number 5, which has generated a few eagles in the past as well. It's funny that number 13 doesn't generate as many eagles as you'd think, but you see just a lot of short par 4s. That's why you see the shorter hitting players end up doing really well. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 par 4s under 400 yards, which means that distance, if you can't drive them, and only one of them is really drivable, and a lot of guys still just hang back even more and just try to hit their wedges in from 70 to 125 yards, hit their number that they like to get to, and then all of a sudden, that's where they want to be in this tournament. So it's hole number 1 is 394. So any skill set can win here. Obviously, as we've seen over time, the 3 par 5s end up playing pretty easy, and the harder ones are the deeper par 4s. You make pars on those, that's usually pretty good. And you see, like, there's no real in-between number here. They're either under 400, and then they're 450 and above. And those are typically the hardest holes on the course, except for number 9, which over the years has played not easy, but around average at this course. Doesn't give up a ton of birdies, only 15%, but around 2/3 of the field is going to make par on that hole. And you don't see the huge crooked numbers at all. Like the bogey rate is below 20%. The birdie rate's a bit higher. So with an accessible pin, you can generally get to it no problem. Yeah, number 18, I believe, is the one that Robert McIntyre drove to really hammer it home. Cantlay, I recall, at this tournament last year. I always like Cantlay at these courses, but like, dude could not make a putt to save his life. We don't have strokes gain metrics to go by. It's a lot of hearsay. Guys don't complete all 18 holes. So it's a lot of observation the first few days if you want to jump on someone live for one of these tournaments. But I would reason that most players are live to win a pod. Almost everyone is, even if it looks like John Rahm versus Seb Straka. Doesn't mean Seb Straka can't win that pool. We've just seen it too many times at this tournament, especially lately at this tournament. So that's all we really got here because we don't have a lot of the strokes gained metrics to go through everything. So it's just sort of the scorecard. We're playing this one by ear. That's why I was using Wikipedia for most of it. If you want to get the membership to Fantasy National, the Masters is right around the corner, and you're probably going to want to play a lot of lineups or make some bets on that one. FantasyNational.com/Mayo to get yourself that discount of 20% off. Would highly recommend that you do that. So I have built a rudimentary model for this one. And we go down to the bottom. We got the match play, 30% strokes gained off the tee. I'm going to amend this for this year. I did some prep beforehand and amended it. So I'm going to drop this down to 20% strokes gained off the tee, 30% or 30% strokes gained approach. And I am going to bump up strokes gained around the green to 15%. Just, we've seen a lot of really good scramblers. I'm going to get rid of strokes gained around the green actually entirely and just call it strokes gained short game. I want to combine because I want to overweight it. Just based on some of the players that I've seen recently do really well here. They're either good chippers, good putters, or some combination of both. The Kisners, the Kuchers, that type of thing. So I'm going to bump that up to 15%. So opportunities gained is going to remain at 10%. Birdies are better gained at 15%. Eagles down at 5% because there's not a ton to be had, but maybe I probably shouldn't even include that, but I do have proximity from 100 to 125 for a lot of these shorter holes that guys just are not going to go after, and I'm going to load that in. The players, once again, the field itself is not loaded in, but we know who's playing in the field, and if you just click over to PGA Tour players, it's just going to have all the top guys in the world rankings and the money list, that kind of thing. So we're going to be able to kind of parse through to see where some of these guys rank. The modeling itself is going to be off a little bit because you're going to have guys near the very bottom, like, for example, Spieth is ranked 71st in this field, although there's only 64 players in the field, because if we go down to like all players, you'll see like Bezadenhout is ranked 56, and thank God he's not playing and or is he in this field? Maybe he is in this field. Oh, God. Does that mean I'm going to lose money on Bezadenhout again this week? That's never any fun. Either way, when we go through it, you can just kind of see who the top-end guys are for this field. Louis ranks out 5th. He's had success at this tournament in the past. Kokrak ranks down pretty low, although short course in Texas, coming off a miscut. I don't know where his head's at the moment, mainly because he was one of the few Saudi guys that we thought was going to go over and play. Now, they've announced this Saudi schedule. I don't know if he's going to go try to take some of this free money that's available over there. It didn't seem like he had his full faculties at all over the course of the last little bit. So we can kind of look at, Rory's not playing, but he was ranked first. You see Scheffler is up there as well. Patrick Reed is way down on this list. Stuart Sink way down on this list. Kevin Na just coming off the baby swag. Maybe he has absolutely nothing left in the tank, as I can attest from having 2 little kids over the past 3 years, that you're not always feeling the best a few weeks out and really into it. Sung Jae, I do think, is somewhat interesting at this tournament based on his short game, his putting. The approach really hasn't been all that great over the past 50 rounds, though. Let's shrink this down to the past 24 rounds and see if there are players either in wedge proximity and short game that are popping up a little bit more that are very balanced across the board. Because when we click on the Pete Dye filter, we're going to see Sergio, we're going to see Abraham Answer, Patrick Cantlay, see Kim, my guy, who has advanced out of here once. He almost feels like the ultimate match play player. He's going to lose like 7-6, or he's going to win 7-6. He'll either go full Ames or anti-Ames, one of the two in this tournament. So who are guys right now that we see in terms of the wedge proximity, the very elite players? You got Morikawa, Spieth, Justin Thomas, and Louis all rate out really well. Cam Smith not playing. Xander ends up there as he's kind of grinding his way through the Valspar as we speak right now. Scheffler, just very good across the board, except for off the tee and opportunities gained. That still makes him number 2 overall because he's so good at everything else. The short game has been really good overall. Sung Jae and Reed are going to do it with short game, but the rest of their games have been a bit off, although Sung Jae's driving has been really good. Corey Connors, interesting. I don't know if he has the grinding type mentality, but this is a shorter course. Should be able to use the very top end of his game. Was much better at the players than he had been in recent weeks, and even at the weekend at API was much better than he had been earlier in the season. So it seems like he's getting his game back together. His only win in his PGA career it was in Texas at the Valero, so maybe that's good news for him. Zalatoris, Texas guy, obviously, maybe he's a bit better on these greens than he is on any other greens, but outside of short game, everything else. The wedges are not the best, but outside of that, 3rd in approach, 12th in opportunities gained, he's going to give himself ample opportunity to make birdies. And if we're really worried that he's going to leave too much on the table in terms of bogey avoidance and things like that, he's very good around the greens. So maybe Zalatoris is a pretty good look here, just with the way that he's been playing. We saw Scheffler kind of break through, make it to the finals a year ago. Scheffler, a more complete player, tee to green, and especially on the greens than Zalatoris is. But all of a sudden, Zalatoris starts making those 35 footers, which he's been known to do. Again, it's like the 5 footers, and hey, we get into gimme range. If it was me, I'd make him putt it out, but maybe other people have a bit more courtesy. Maybe they're a bit more gentlemanly. They are professional golfers, mind you. That maybe they'll give him a 4-foot putt. Again, I wouldn't. I really think that's why Sergio's done well at this tournament over time. They're like, yeah, Sergio, you're good with that 2-footer. Don't worry about it. And I'd be like, man, you need to fucking make that 2-footer, Sergio, because I know you're missing half those. But, again, these guys, a bit more gentlemanly than I'm going to be. Webb playing some decent golf game, not all the way back at the Valspar, but that was a nice step in the right direction of we want to see. And then guys that have played well at this tournament, Sergio and Kisner, like they don't come in good form whatsoever. Kisner obviously played well, rallied to make the weekend at the Valspar. That's always encouraging to see. Lowry, you got to think dude's getting tired after a while. He's a big burly fella. And after a weekend of drinking on St. Patrick's Day, who knows with him at the moment. Is Henley qualified for this tournament? Let's go see. Yeah, we got Russell Henley. He's in here. Yeah, the back end of the field, you got Takumi Kanata. Probably not going to pay much mind to him. Min Woo Lee, Lucas Herbert is in here as well. Oh, Bezadenhout is in this tournament. Great. Can't wait to lose again. Keith Mitchell, Robert McIntyre, Keegan, and Munoz were like the late ads for alternates along with Seb Straka as we start looking into it. Matthew Wolff is going to be in this field. Thomas Peters will be in this field of guys that maybe you weren't sure if they were going to be there or not. Neiman back in Texas could be a good look. Like, you either want to prioritize, I think at least, like these short hitters who do gain a little bit off the tee through accuracy, a la the Kuchers, the Kisners of the world, the Norins for that matter. Although Norin's off the tee, it's funny, if he had just had the short game and putting that he's showing off through 3 rounds at the Valspar, at the Players' Championship, he would have won the Players' Championship based on the way that he was hitting his approaches. So he's someone who hasn't quite got it all on the same page for an entire tournament, yet we're seeing good results out of him over and over and over. So that's really encouraging to see. Let's take a look at the best players right now, proximity-wise. Let's get out. Let's keep on here. Here are guys in the field who are great from 100 to 125. Hoagie and Xander, both in the field and both top 5 over the past 24 rounds. You'll see Morikawa is up there. Spieth is actually interesting at a course like this. If he can just hit fairways, which is a big ask for one Mr. Jordan Spieth, but we've seen him play better at shorter courses over the past little bit. Bryson's back in the field too. That's always fun to see. Corey Connors is another one from that range. You see Horschel up there. Good. Bezadenhout. Cam Smith, who's made some deep runs. Matt Kuchar, who's obviously made some deep runs. Like, this is kind of the number where we want to be around. Where does Scheffler rank in this number? Old Iron Chef. Scheffler's 27th, so yes, he is going to be up there as well. Justin Thomas was another one that we saw. Keegan should have a good run here. I don't know if he can chip or putt his way, but if he's hitting all the greens in regulation, maybe that's good enough to give him a few gimmies. Historically, Sergio had been very good from that range. Leishman's another one we've seen advance over time. Cameron Young is playing very good with his wedges. I wouldn't sleep on Cameron Young in this situation. It seems like the rub is a little bit off of him right now, too. Obviously, he's going to be like a 3 or 4 seed in whatever pool he ends up in, so maybe he's a decent sleeper to go take a look at. Other than that, it's a lot of guys that just aren't playing. Homa is inside the top 55. Mito's not going to be playing. Stanley's another one we saw make a deeper run. He had been up there. Tiger, obviously, when he had played the last time was with Beer Garden. He ended up losing to him. No Hideki, no Landry, no Kramer Hickok. Rory has been playing better with his irons as of late, too. You see Zalatoris up there. So if we take more of a macro view of this type of thing and try to look at... Let's see here. We'll go at a custom stat model. We'll get to proximity. And we'll search by, once that loads up, we'll take a look at the last 50 rounds. Give us a larger sample of proximity inside. Maybe you want to ratchet it up a little bit and take a look at who is the best over the last 12 rounds or 8 rounds, who's really heating up right now. But you can see that's where Rahm's problems have really stemmed from, in close. Now, he's going to be trying to drive a lot of these shorter par 4s, I would guess. He's better on his long proximity than anything else. But on these shorter par 4s, I mean, that's pretty telling of what's going on with him right now. From 150 and in, he's been legitimately bad versus the PGA Tour. And I mean, his proximity is 4th overall because he's so good from so far away. And maybe he can get up to the green, utilize that short game, and it's not an issue. But from in close, he just hasn't been good over the last 50. Ditto with Cantlay. But again, you can see they get better as it goes along. Bryson, not the best from in close. You have Morikawa and Thomas, the best from in close of any of these guys. Not a shocker. They're the 2 best iron players in the world. Cam Smith's another one who does pretty well from that range. Finau, does well from that range. Let's take a look at old Finau. How has he been doing even from these ranges recently? Well, at the Genesis, still gained on the field from that regard. And for some reason, there's no play. I guess he was just not hitting any shots from that range at the Players' Championship. Poor Tony. Too much just being bad. But it's funny, the closer he's been to the tee has been all right. I mean, the approaches themselves actually haven't been all that bad. It's been the driving that's been really horrendous for Tony Finau as of late. Who are other guys from these two kind of quadrants? Answer hasn't been good from there, although his game is coming back around. That's what I mean. You can kind of take longer term, you can take shorter term if you want, but I think shorter term does give you a pretty good insight into who's been really good at this. Obviously, Scheffler's been really good. Rory's not playing, but he's been all right. Connors has been all right, trending better as of late. Na is someone who's good from 150 and in. Who else here? Paul Casey. He'll be in the field. He's not WD, but he was from the Valspar. That's why he's listed that way, because the field has not updated yet. So from 100 to 150, I guess, is what we're going to be looking at here more. Charlie Hoffman, not in the field. Webb Simpson, pretty good from that regard. So let's shrink it back down. Obviously, Webb's not going to pop up because we don't have the Valspar rounds in here yet. If we just take a look at past 12 rounds, is anyone heating up with their wedges from in close anymore? 150 and in. And maybe that can give us a little bit better example. Cantlay has not been playing well. Rahm's actually gotten better from 125 and in over that time. Morikawa's gotten worse, but still not bad. Thomas, very good. Spieth, very good. Louis, the closer you get, the better he's going to get. It's been really bad in the short term from ththose ranges. I mean, Harris English, sure. Xander heating up from this range. Maybe Xander's going to be a look here. God, I don't like that at all. But maybe this is the type of tournament he can win. It has no cut, theoretically. Scheffler, been doing very well from down there. Kevin Na is another one. We haven't seen him play in a while because of the paternity leave. But if he is truly back, that's someone to look at. Webb Simpson, good in both of those. Russell Henley, amazing in both of those. Ugh. Could I take Russell Henley at a match play? I don't know about that. EVR, all right, that's pretty good there. Aaron Wise continues to be pretty good. I don't know if Wise is in the field or not, though, I guess would be the question. Let's see. Aaron Wise. Nope, Aaron Wise, not in the field for this week. Mac Hughes, I believe, is in the field. He advanced out of his pod. The only thing that he's really good at when he's hitting his irons are 125 to 150. Noren's in here twice for some reason. Not sure why, but it's the same stat, so I guess it really doesn't matter. Has been bad with his approaches, but there's something with him in this course in particular that I'm going to weight more than I'm going to look at the stats. And that's why I think that you play this sort of weird format by ear. Lotto was a disaster at the Valspar Championship, but on paper sets up pretty well for this course. Higo does not. Malnati most certainly not in the field. Is Rose in? Is Rose still inside? Let's see. Yeah, Rose is in the field. He'll be playing. So Rose, when we take a look at him, is still pretty good from 125 to 150. I don't know if Woodland is in the field. Westwood is in the field. Fleetwood is in the field. Nope. We are not getting any. Oh, poor Gary. I guess he would have had to win to get in last week, and that just didn't work out because he ended up missing the cut. Who else here? Luke List? Yeah, Luke List has got to be in here. I doubt he's there we go. Maybe they can give him a few games. Oh, Cuss guy, Richard Bland, making his first appearance. We are getting Bubba. We are getting Harmon. We are getting Noren, and we are getting Poulter. 4 guys at the very back end who are going to be 4 seeds, all with legit chances for upsets in whatever that they want to do. So I think there are many ways to tackle this. Like I said, I want to take off that filter, go back to strokes gained, and take a look at some Pete Dye performers throughout the course of time. Sometimes that's led us astray. Sometimes it's led us in a good direction when it comes to guys like Kuchar or comes to guys like Kisner. Like I said, Sony Open seems to be a course which jives well with this. Maybe the Travelers for some of these shorter hitters, if that's what we want to look at. What are we at? Past 12 rounds. Let's go past 24 rounds. And we'll just take this year. Once that loads itself in, obviously. Take this year, 2021. Make sure that sticks when we click it. 2020 and 2019. We'll take a look at the past 3 seasons because obviously we're only into March into 2022. So taking a look at the past 3 years just to filter out some of the back end guys that are not drawing Pete Dye information from 2014 or something like that. And then we'll just go down to that handy Pete Dye filter and see what we got going on here. Pete Dye. See who some of the better players in this field are, at least in the short term, on Pete Dye courses. I know that we do this most times when it comes down to it, and we'll go to average. Yep, there we go. And maybe even take a look at tee to green. So guys that have not performed well are Spieth, Louis, Harris English not playing. Xander's been bad at Pete Dye courses. But if that's a lot of that is from the Players, I'm guessing. He only has 20 overall courses. Yeah, the Players, PGA Championship, Players, Travelers. He did play the Heritage. He had a really nice finish at the Heritage the year that Kadira won. I know because he was in my super good lineup that year. So he's actually played pretty well at the Heritage, okay at the Travelers. He's been really bad at the Players, and that's one that can kind of screw up your strokes gained overall. I wish there was a way to eliminate that. From maybe I'll talk to Moose about how to eliminate certain courses. Bryson's been really good. He might even be, Callum Tarrant, Novak. Yeah, Bryson, Casey, Harmon, Webb Simpson, Lowry, Corey Connors over the past 24 rounds have been the best overall. Like I said, it's a bit unfair to Xander when you're only playing, basically, he played the Heritage. He wasn't playing the Travelers every year or the Amex for the course that he needs to, and any of those. So when you're only taking like PGA Championship and the Players, it's a bit dicier when it comes down to it. I said you might want to build your own one that has like Heritage, Colonial, and Sony. Looking at that path might be a decent way to go about it. But as you can see, Casey, Harmon, Webb, Lowry, Connors, all pretty good. Answer, DJ, Zalatoris. Okay, that's good to know. Daniel Hauserberger, not so bad either. There's Sergio. He continues to pop up there. Fleetwood. Now that his game is starting to get back into form a little bit, not the worst thing in the world to look at him. How did Patrick Reed end up at the Players? It's funny, for as bad as Patrick Reed has been, he had the stretch of the 3 miscuts, Arnold Palmer, Honda, and Genesis, 26th at the Players. Most certainly did not do it off the tee, but if he can figure out how just to keep it in the friggin' fairway, the rest of his game is less. It was less of a disaster at the Players, put it that way. He did gain 9 strokes putting. When you gain 9 strokes putting and you only come in 26, that's probably not good. I want any reason to start looking up Patrick Reed again, and he's just not giving me that reason. Who else is going to be playing here? Rahm, Thomas, and Neiman, all pretty good. Hatton pops up as well. Brooks, Scotty Sheff, Adam Scott is going to be down there. Maybe Scott can make enough putts to do it. So again, there's not that much that we can tell about what the stats are going to dictate to us for the match play. A lot of it's going to be gut feel. A lot of it's going to be current form. A lot of it is just going to be what you see on the paper. Maybe you can make some good decisions when it comes to the betting market. For DraftKings, I do think it is important to identify your quadrants. Don't get ahead of yourself whatsoever. And just try to locate everything. Everything's going to be like March Madness. Take your guys from the top, take your guys from the bottom. I know that there's probably going to be a theory that in cash games, maybe you overload 2 brackets. Use 3 guys from 2 brackets, hope to get 2 to move on, and maybe a 2 of 6 is all you need to do it in cash games. I don't play cash games, so I don't know. That's a theory that we can go behind. I think there are many ways that you can go about it, but you're going to hear a lot of discourse this week about taking the guys from the different quadrants and making sure that your path could be a 6 of 6. You don't want to get into a situation where you take 2 guys from the same pod. You're just lowering the expected value of each of the lineups you get into. Now, as I mentioned before, that although we put that theory into practice every single year, the results never really back it up because no one's good enough, really. You're going to have to be so lucky to get 6 of 6 guys through. If you get 4 of 6 through, you're guaranteed to cash in GPPs because the predominants are going to be like, there's going to be more 0 of 6s than 5 of 6s and 6 of 6s once you get past the pod stage and into the knockout stage. So, like I said, if you overload one side of the bracket and hope to get one guy through the finals, that's a way to make the money, but you're not going to win the big money in that circumstance because the winning lineup is going to have probably 3 of the 4 guys in the final 4, at least 2 of the final 4 guys, and probably the winner to go along with it. That's what the winning lineups have looked like at this tournament on DraftKings. Again, it starts on Wednesday this week, so the show is going to be pushed a little bit through it, so you can play it. But what I wanted to say about the discourse around having like the perfect bracket, the the quadrant by quadrant to make sure your guys aren't playing each other until as late as possible. You will hear everyone talk about that. However, Sky puts out these numbers at Skyhook DFS on Twitter, the host of the European Tour Picks and Bet Show, or the DP World Tour Picks and Bet Show on Mayo Media Network, along with Tom Jacobs. He analyzes this thoroughly. And although we talk about it's a lot like the PM, AM, PM weather advantages, although that is the discourse within our bubble of podcasts and people who tout DFS and the DraftKings and betting specific type shows, people don't actually do it en masse. It's like 4% of people who do it. So just because you hear everyone talking about it does not translate equally into people putting that into practice in their lineups. I know Moose worked really hard on the Fantasy National bracket generator a year ago. I think he should have that in practice once again this year, that if you want to isolate people by quadrants and build lineups easily, Fantasy National should be able to facilitate that as easy as possible, so you don't have to go through and hand build and really try to think this out. You can identify the guys in the brackets that you want, then it won't pair them up. As easy as that. And sometimes that's all you have to do about everything. Thank you all for watching. Jeff and I will be back after the brackets are released for the pick show. In the meantime, enjoy some NFL content. There's like an hour and a half of that. I got an hour and a half of Oscars content coming out. Plus, we'll have more later in the week until the betting show comes out for the WGC Dell Match Play Tournament. Thank you all for watching. Smash a like on the way out. I'll add the Listeners League when it's available to me. Good luck at match play. Good luck if you still got to sweat at the Valspar. I don't. I'll see you next time.
Mayo experience! Experience!